And we are live.
And welcome into Gator Bytes on the 1010XL.com podcast network, also being simulcast on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Today's Gator podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. For the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for any orthopedic injury or concern. You can check out their website, se-ortho.com. That is Graham Marsh. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. You, presumably, are fans of the national champion Florida Gators for the third time in school history on the hardwood. Florida wins the title last night, comes from behind again, double digits down again to defeat Houston in an absolute thriller. I don't really think Graham and I ever went to bed last night. I think I might have dozed off, Graham, at about 2 a.m. for a little bit. Had to take the little man to school. I wake up about 6 a.m. So I'm going on about a 3.5 hour nap. But totally worth it. What a game. What an experience last night.
So give a cheer for the orange and blue, waving forever, forever pride of old Florida. May she droop never. So sing a song for the flag today. Cheer for the team at play. On to the goal, we'll fight our way for Florida.
Graham's an objective broadcast journalist, by the way.
Those are my opening thoughts.
Look, this is your second podcast. You and Denmark went like at midnight last night.
That's right.
So I know you got to talk a lot about get your thoughts out there. This team, man, I mean, you're down 4 to UConn with 3 minutes to go. You're down double digits to Texas Tech. You're down 8 to Auburn. Maryland, it's a 2-point game at halftime. And last night, down 12. This team, I mean, my goodness, the 06-07 guys, they didn't have comebacks like this because they were destroying everybody. This almost makes it that much sweeter because at least, particularly 07, you expected them to win. When they're down 12 last night, again, I thought it was over. I think a lot of people probably thought it was over. And Florida, again, does what they do and comes from behind and wins the game.
They played that entire game, Hack. They played Houston's game. They played the way Houston wants to play the basketball game. That game finished up in the final score finished up in the 60s. It was a slow it started to speed up towards the end, which I think contributed to Florida being able to pull it out. But I'd say 85% of that game was played at Houston's pace.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very, very physical, which is the type of game Houston wanted to play. It felt like, I mean, if you were to have not had a scoreboard and you're just watching the game and you're not really keeping track of who's scored in your head and you're kind of just watching the flow of the game, you're like, this is Houston's game to win. They're controlling tempo. Todd said as much in his press conference. He said he felt like Houston controlled most of the game.
It was very, very, very similar to UConn. I thought that was a UConn game in the round of 32. I thought it was a Houston game, and Florida beat UConn and Houston at their own games. And look, I mean, right out of the gate here, they obviously don't win that game if not for Will Richard. I mean, where would they have been without Will Richard in the first half? They had 28 points at halftime. Will Richard had 14 of those 28. I think combined, what was the stat? It was like Aberdeen, Hout, Clayton, and Martin had 2 field goals in the first half. Those 4 guys combined. I mean, Will Richard, they are not anywhere in the realm of a comeback if it wasn't for Will Richard's heroics in the first half.
I thought Walter Clayton said it beautifully. Walter Clayton Jr. said it beautifully in the post game when he was asked about it. Because, of course, he'd been asked about, hey, you obviously had a slow start. It was like not your best game scoring-wise. Like, what were kind of your thoughts on it? He said, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he said something along the lines of, like, why he loves this team so much is he said, in any game, anybody can go. And tonight, it was Will Richards' time to go.
Yeah.
And you get this sense, Hack. Dylan and I talked about this a bit last night. Because when you have a team that's that talented and that many guys that truthfully can go give you what you need on any given night, that type of team to be able to get this far and win this big and be playing for this long, you have to have a team that is incredibly unselfish. And that is what this basketball team is. I never once, Hack, the entire year watching this team play, I never once got the sense that Walter Clayton Jr. wanted Will Richard to pass him the ball back, or Elijah Martin was getting mad at Alex Common for not giving him the ball, or Denzel Aberdeen's moping around on the bench because he thinks he needs more minutes, or Thomas Houck thinks he should be a starter. You know what I mean? Like, it's some of these things that I think a lot of programs in today's college basketball typically deal with. And, you know, in today's world with transfer portal and NIL and the way college basketball is set up, the fact that these guys can truthfully and selflessly go with the true flow of each game and feed the hot hand and see what's going to help them win on that particular day, regardless if it helps their own personal goals, is the reason that they've been able to go this far.
What makes it extra sweet, to your point, is winning the national title, obviously. But this was a special team. And if they would have lost last night, you just think, man, you know, what could have been? Because Will Richards gone and Walter Clayton's gone and Elijah Martin's gone. When you have a special team like this, and to be able to cap it off with a national championship, I mean, that should just bring a smile at every Gator fan's face, because Houston had a special team, and you saw the absolute dejection on their face last night. I mean, those guys were crushed going back into that locker room. I was watching a lot of that. Kelvin Sampson was crushed because he knew teams like that don't come around but every so often. And Florida was able to capitalize on this special team. Again, it had been 18 years since Florida had one game for a national championship. These things don't happen but every so often. And for Florida to be able to capitalize on that, and in the fashion they did, coming back from 12 down with 15 to go against that team, oh, that is something that you'll remember for a long, long time.
So first point, and you talking about, yeah, man, like, and because I think it's one of those things where, you know, if it's a team that you dislike the coach, dislike some players on the other team, then I think you may not always feel this way this hard. But with Houston, like, they're a team that I have a ton of respect for, and I think Kelvin Sampson's a fantastic basketball coach, and I don't really have a negative.
I felt bad for them last night.
Right, correct, and that's right. Like when the camera cut to them right afterwards, because the camera did a good job of kind of getting a lot of Houston dejection, like right when the horn sounded. And then because obviously they had plenty of time to get Gator celebrating. That shot when they cut to Kelvin Sampson, like literally like right when the horn sounded. I mean, he looked just like I don't even have the words for what that look in his eyes was. You could tell he was just like, you got to be kidding me.
Well, look, better them than us, but yeah, I mean, it was rough, and the way it happened too. I mean, the fact that they're down one with 30 seconds to go, they don't get a shot off, right? And then Aberdeen goes 1 of 2 from the line, and I was thinking, you know, I'm you know me, I'm always thinking worst case scenario, right? So I'm sitting there thinking it's 65-63 with 19 seconds to go. I'm like, all right, I actually might consider fouling here, because if you foul, they cannot beat you on a 3. If they hit both free throws, the worst case scenario is the ball is in your hands with Walter Clayton and Elijah Martin with 15 seconds to go in a tie game, and you either win it or you go to overtime. You cannot lose in regulation if you foul up 2, which is probably why I'm not a basketball coach. But I was just convinced, man, the way Houston's season had been and the magical run they had been on, like, these dudes are going to hit a 3 and beat Florida in the last 5 seconds. And thankfully, we never found out, because as great as Walter Clayton was offensively, what a freaking defensive play he made there at the end of the game.
Did you see how high off the ground he was?
Oh, man.
Because now, would Emmanuel Sharp have made that shot if Clayton doesn't get that? Because if Sharp had pulled the trigger, that Clayton would have blocked the shot.
Yes.
If Clayton didn't get in that position and Sharp was able to actually release the ball, would he have made it? We'll never know. Luckily, we don't have to. But if you look at how high off the ground Walt is, and he timed it perfectly, perfect closeout, just a true test of how much of a natural athlete he is.
And it was perfect because he went to the side. He wasn't going to land on him, so there was going to be no foul.
And the understanding, too, when that ball is loose for Alex Condon to go dive for it himself as well. The play of the night, though, in my opinion, Hack, was the possession before. That steal from Will Richard to deflect the ball off of Emmanuel Sharp's knee. That's one of the best that's one of the best plays in Gator basketball history. Like I think that's going to be a play. We'll talk about both. I'm sure that those of us that are the ones that live and die with every dribble. But I think that play Will Richard made is one of those that 25 years from now people will be talking about when they reminisce on this season and this team and this game.
Well, and I'll tell you this too, and we're not going to talk a lot about this, but just in the moment. So against Auburn, Elijah Martin goes to the free throw line. Huge scenario. Makes a couple of big free throws. Against Texas Tech, he has a 1-and-1, 78-77. Makes a couple of huge free throws. Last night, it's 63-62, 46 seconds to go in the national championship game. Millions of people watching. And I don't know if either one of those free throws hit the rim. I mean, swish to give Florida a 1-point lead, their first lead since 8-6. Again, it's a free throw, so obviously it's not going to get a lot of acclaim or praise. But what a job by Elijah Martin at the free throw line.
And you every big free throw that Elijah Martin's had to hit this year, you at least when he's in the line specifically, I don't even think twice about him. Like, he's making these.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys, man. It was so clear so many times in the tournament, particularly in the NCAA tournament, which guy was the one that had been to a Final Four before. And I think I go back to, in the national championship game, I go back to really early in the game. He got blocked and he didn't get it. He didn't finish and got rejected by the rim. But for him to go up that viciously or that early in the game trying to dunk on that guy, I think that who did he try to dunk on? Was it
It was one of the big. Was it Francis?
I'm forgetting the names.
One of them.
But anyways, I didn't even care that it got blocked. Like, I was like, I'm totally fine with that because Florida offensively looked a little sheepish at that point. Like Walt had thrown up some logo shots and given it a shot, and they hadn't gone in. And besides that, guys playing a little hot potato, not necessarily wanting to be the guy to take the shot on any given possession. And Elijah Martin's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go cram this down somebody's throat. And again, he got blocked, but I'll live with that. I'm like, somebody's got to kind of, aggressively take the lid off the basket here to get these boys playing right. And he's done that type of stuff all year. He's been between Elijah Martin and Thomas Howcack. You and I have talked about this ad nauseum, but I think a big reason that they're hoisting a trophy today is because anytime in the tournament, anytime throughout the season that they've been flat, offensively they're not clicking, they're not aggressive enough, or for whatever reason that edge they normally have isn't there. Martin and Houck are the guys that one of them is going to go get an and one. One of them is going to go dunk on somebody. One of them is going to go get a turnover and go get a layup or a dunk on the other end. One of them is going to get hype and throw his fist in the air and get after it, play really tough defense and get a block on somebody. Or those are the two guys that are going to do something to get this team that jolt they need. And they've been that all year. And I can't say enough about those two guys doing that type of thing for this team.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialist brings you this special edition of the Gator Bytes podcast, celebrating a Florida national championship. For the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialist for any orthopedic injury or concern. They have locations in both Jacksonville and St. Augustine, Riverside, Northside, the South Side, Beaches, St. John's. Our good friends at Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. Todd Golden, youngest coach to win a national championship since Jim Valvano back in 1983. And look, and I'll gladly admit it, old takes exposed got me last night. I look at it as a badge of honor, and I actually have thanked them, if I'm that important to retweet. January 27th of 2024, right? So about midway through the conference schedule last year, Florida was coming off a year where they did not go to the tournament in 2022, Golden's first year. Late January of last year, they were below 500 in the conference. And then something happened probably early to mid-February of 24 and has just carried over for the last 14 months to now Todd Golden being the youngest coach to win a national championship since Jim Valvano. It's been a crazy 14-month stretch for Golden.
Insane. And I think it's interesting too, and I want to bring this up, talking about and kind of carry this over into the legacy of Todd Golden conversation, because obviously the man's not even 40 years old. The cement on his career is still extremely wet. But I listened to a couple different national shows throughout the week before the Final Four started, and people just talking about all four teams and who they're picking, and the normal content, right? And I heard it in a couple different places, people talking about all four coaches and ranking all four coaches on, who's the coach you want in your corner the most throughout this Final Four, and between the cachet and the experience and just who you think is going to make the right calls in the right moments and all that. Thought it was interesting because I think most people acknowledge Todd Golden's a really good basketball coach, but pretty much unanimously when the national people would have that conversation, Todd Golden would be last.
Well, Bruce Pearl and Kelvin Sampson have earned that, at least until the last 48 hours.
Well, right, and I'm not saying, I'm not bringing this up to call people out and say they were wrong. I'm bringing it up to say, boy, is that narrative different now.
Oh yeah, now it is, absolutely.
Well, what a difference 2 games makes, huh?
Well,
because you're talking about Kelvin Sampson, Hall of Fame coach. You're talking about Bruce Pearl, Hall of Fame coach. You're talking about John Shire, obviously a really, really good coach, replaced arguably the greatest coach the sport has ever seen in Coach K. And those 3 were pretty much unanimously named before Todd Golden. Well, now there's one championship between the 4 of those guys. Who does it belong to? It belongs to Todd Golden.
The fact that Golden has coached 8 NCAA tournament games. 8. And he's already got a national championship because he's 6-2. He did not have a NCAA tournament win until 3 weeks ago.
Crazy.
He was 0-1 at San Francisco, and he was 0-1 at Florida. He was 0-2 coming in, and he just rattled off 6 in a row. And not only did he rattle off 6 in a row, losing to UConn 3 minutes to go, losing to Texas Tech 3 minutes to go, losing to Auburn, 10 minutes to go, losing to Houston 3 minutes to go, and they won all of them. It is absolutely incredible. Teams don't do that, man. They just don't. I think I saw Florida is the first team ever to come from 9 back or more in an Elite Eight, a Final Four, and a national championship game to win the title.
It's unbelievable. I want to ask you. This is part of what you're bringing up here, Hack. If I can, I want to ask you 3 questions. And the first one, because I think it's going to be interesting. Dylan and I talked about this last night, but Dylan and I are the same exact age, so we have kind of the same perspective on Gator sports and sort of what we've been able to watch growing up. And there's some stuff, there's some players and some teams and stuff that we didn't get to appreciate because we either weren't alive, we were too young, or what have you. But I want to get your opinion on this. The first question, and it relates to what you just said. All these come from behind wins. All these crazy games they've played. The UConn game, the Texas Tech game, obviously the national champion. Like, between all these games, where does this season rank for you in terms of most fun Gator team to watch? We'll call it between football and basketball. And just in terms of, like, the team that, like, you at the end of the year, you look and you're like, wow, what a ride. Like, what a special journey. What fun that was to track that team.
08 football was pretty fun.
We put 08 football 1 as well.
96 football was pretty fun, but they lost in Tallahassee, which sucked because I was
there. Dylan and I weren't allowed to enjoy 96 football.
94 basketball was pretty fun just because it came out of nowhere, but it wasn't this. 07 was like national championship or failure, so I don't know how much fun you could really have. The first of the back-to-backs was pretty fun, but I hear you. I don't know if it's 08 football, but it's probably second to me.
Ever.
Yeah.
In Gator sports, Hack, like, do you hear that? Like, do you hear how crazy that is?
Yeah, it's a good point. Fun is a relative word. It's fun because they won. I mean,
of course. Yeah.
You talk about the nerves and just the pacing back and forth. And, like, I had buddies last night that were just, you couldn't even talk to them with 3 minutes to go. And
it's
it was the same way with Texas.
Buddy.
Yeah, same way with Texas Tech and Auburn and UConn. I mean, the fact that they won all of these games in just gut-wrenching fashion and the other fan base was just devastated by these outcomes, you just got to thank the sports gods, because how many of us have been on the other side of games like this and Florida got 1, 2, 3, 4 that all went their way?
Yeah, it's crazy. And you're absolutely right. If Florida had lost any of these games, which they very well could have done, of course, the conversation is not the same. You got to end up pulling it out. But if you do end up pulling it out, the fact that they had to go out and earn each of these, and the fact that they were truthfully staring at real adversity in the middle of these games, and even late in a lot of these games, makes it that much more special because you realize how close it was to not happening.
Imagine waking up a Houston fan this morning.
Crazy. Unbelievable. You got to be sick. And then the next question I wanted to ask you, Hack, and I feel like I want your perspective on this as well, because, again, Dylan and I we weren't able to appreciate some of these guys of the past.
I'm the old guy. You can say it.
Hack, you're the old grandpa of the group.
Yes.
Is Walter Clayton Jr. the best Florida Gator basketball player to ever put on the uniform?
It's funny. We did a 10-10XL thing about the Mount Rushmore of Gator basketball. And 2 weeks ago, I said, look, I think he's in the conversation. But when you're talking about, whether it's Mike Miller, whether it's Joakim Noah, whether it's Al Horford, Corey Brewer, Udonis Haslem, go back in the day to Maxwell and Neil Walk. I mean, there were guys that I think I would have put over him. And I said, talk to me in 2 weeks. Well, it's 2 weeks later. They're national champions. I think Noah, Horford, and Brewer kind of ate each other. And what I mean by that is they were all so good that you don't really put one singular guy of the three above any of the others.
It's a reason. It's a reason that those three guys somehow none of them were ever first team All-Americans.
Right. Whereas Walter Clayton was clearly the guy on one of the most memorable teams in the history of Florida athletics. So, yeah, I think Walter Clayton not only is on the Mount Rushmore, he might damn near be the number one Gator basketball player that's ever been in Gainesville.
And it doesn't just include the 04s, man. Like, what you're talking, you just brought him up. You're talking Mike Miller. You're talking Vernon Maxwell. You're talking Joakim Noah. You're talking Corey Brewer, Al Horford.
Udonis Haslem.
Udonis Haslem, right? Like, but what's the other guy that there's no other guy in Gator history that ever had games where Florida should have and honestly was supposed to lose, but their best player was just like, actually, we're just not going to lose today.
Yeah.
Not as much in the national championship game as we've talked about, but I think it's fair to say between the Auburn game, the Texas Tech game, and the UConn game, all three of those, if Walter Clayton Jr. has just a normal game instead of just going nuclear like he did in all three, Florida's going home all three of those games.
Well, think about it. I mean, he scored 30-plus in the Elite Eight and the Final Four, and they won those games by a combined 11 points.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I think, and look, here's the other thing that it was either on here that you and I talked about this or Dylan and myself, I can't remember, but I feel like what's important to note with those 30-point games that he's had is, yeah, he had 30 plus. In a lot of those games, like 10 or more of those points came in the last 5 minutes of the game.
Well, the Texas Tech game in particular.
In the Texas Tech game, he didn't play well until the last couple minutes.
UConn, he had those 2 threes against UConn too.
100%. And look, we know it didn't happen in the national championship game, but it didn't have to because of Richard and other guys stepping up and what have you. But with these other games we're talking about, like Walt just reached this mental level, and it kind of clicked to me. It should have clicked earlier. It should have clicked in the Texas Tech or the UConn game, but it clicked in that Auburn game when he hit that. Florida was still down, I believe, maybe by 4, and this maybe cut it to 1 or tied. I don't totally remember the score scenario, but that 1-3 against Auburn that Walt hit right in Chad Baker-Mazara's face on the, you know what I'm talking about, in the right corner. He did his little hop step that he loves to do, his little hop step from left to right.
It was 55-51, and that cut it to 55-54.
That's what it was. And Florida was coming on. They were getting momentum. That little shot from his shoulder that Walt loved shooting. Baker-Mazara played fantastic defense on that play. Auburn they could not have done any better on defense.
Yeah.
But it clicked in that moment that, like, this dude really just gets in these zones where he's like, the Florida Gators are not losing. I'm not letting them lose. I'm not like it's not going to happen. And that was one of those zones. Texas Tech was one of those zones. And if it weren't for those zones, again, we're not having a national championship podcast right now, Hack.
I know we got to go quick because you got to get to the station. I got to start doing stuff for Hacker After Dark. I'm also going to be on. What I'm genuinely curious about is my guy Frangie. Carline's on vacation, so I'm going to be on the Frangie show today, presumably with Frank, who was tweeting from San Antonio at 2 a.m. Eastern. So I'm wondering how the Frange is going to be emotionally, mentally, physically. If he was tweeting from San Antonio, Texas at 2 a.m. and he's supposed to be on the air with us at 4 o'clock Eastern, that could be very interesting. So tune in for that, if nothing else. But I'll be on 4 to 6 today and then 8 to 10 on my show tonight. People were talking about way too early top 25s. Here's my response to that. I do not care. I don't care. That's a conversation for a month from now, 3 months from now. You just pulled off the greatest title run in the history of Gator basketball. As great as the 04s were, you didn't have 4 comebacks like this. as great as those back-to-back titles were, they were domination for the most part. There were a couple of nail-biters, but by and large, those 12 wins, 9 or 10 of them were domination. You did not have 4 emotional comebacks to win a national championship when it looked like it was over. Enjoy this. Golden, I'm sure, is going to hit the portal. They're going to find some guards, but talk to me about next year's roster. We'll do it in a month. Because up until then, I'm just going to bask in the glory of this, and I think all Gator fans should as well, because it was one hell of a ride.
That's the beauty of winning a national championship is you don't have to care right away.
Right.
You get to, because you just did the thing in the sport that everybody is trying to do every season.
You're at the mountaintop. You are up at the mountaintop.
What everyone is right now, all the other programs, what everyone is talking about next season for, when everyone's talking about the portal guys they're going to get, the recruits they're going to get, it's to reach what you just did. Everyone next year is trying to be this year's Florida.
Yeah.
That's another crazy thing to think about, Hack, because I think with Todd Golden and being a younger guy and being analytically driven, but also kind of knowing how to navigate the in-game and human feel of a game, and the way he's navigated the portal and other guys that he has gotten in the high school route. Florida's a blueprint program now. Are they not? Are other schools across the country right now not having podcasts talking about how their program can follow the map that Todd Golden just built in Gainesville?
Well, they're the only school to have 3 football titles and 3 basketball titles, too. I mean, it's wild to think about. Imagine being Rick Barnes in Knoxville this morning. Imagine being Nate Oates in Tuscaloosa or Bruce Pearl at Auburn. And the new kid on the block, man, the 39-year-old, the new guy, comes in and does something that you haven't been able to do.
Can I do you one further?
What's that?
Imagine being Mike White in Athens right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. Believe me. I know. All right, Southeast Orthopedic Specialist. We thank them for this special edition of the Gator Bytes podcast. I know you got to get to the station. Marsh, any final thoughts?
Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, I will stand my ground, and I won't back down. Those are my final thoughts.
Graham Marsh, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to Southeast Orthopedic Specialist. Graham, it's been fun. We'll reconvene for a podcast probably next week after we get off our euphoric high. Join me this afternoon, 4 to 6, with Frangie on The Frangie Show. I'll also be on 8 to 10 tonight on Hacker After Dark. Appreciate you, Graham. We'll talk soon. Gator Bytes Podcast, 1010XL.com, and the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page.